Well, when I got sick from my breast implants, I had no clue that it was my breast implants. It was 2017 and I didn't know. And I finally was so desperate. I got down on my knees in my bedroom and prayed and begged God to help me and send me help. And I said, I know I'm not supposed to ask you to help me or fix it for me, but give me, a sign or show me what to do to fix it. And like an hour or so later, a gal, an RN, pulled in my driveway. And she then a couple days later took me on her boat and said, I think you have breast implant illness. And I had just prayed. And then when my mother and my brother died last year, 2021, 4 months apart. And I was that was pain, such pain. And you kept popping up in my news feeds and I don't know you. I don't know who you are. So I'm like, oh my God. And you were so inspirational. You're sitting there with, your hair or lack of hair. And I'm sitting there watching you and I'm like, what's her story? And then I hear that it's from breast implant illness, a lot of it. And so then I become fascinated by you, but I'm telling you, if it wasn't for you and your daily videos, and I would sit there and watch them, I thought, I'm sitting here crying and I'm in all this pain, and look at her every day, keeping the faith, keeping your attitude in the right place. And I'm telling you, thank you, because you really, really helped me get through such a god awful time in my life.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. You're gonna make me cry.
Yeah, I'm tearing up a little. You're very inspirational. But I don't even know what state you live in. I don't know anything about you, Cindy Leach. Hello.
I'm the only state in America. Texas.
Oh, is that right? Where's that?
Texas.
Oh, are you in Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, what part?
Actually, Houston.
Okay.
I'm right, in a suburb of Houston, like Pearland, Manville, Texas, Dory County.
In Ponder. I have a friend in Ponder, which I think is outside of Dallas, maybe, or Fort Worth. I don't know.
I had never heard of that.
A friend down in College Station. So I'll be coming to Texas this year, hopefully, because she's getting married. So maybe I'll come see you. Yeah, maybe I'll come bop over and see you. I'll do a tour of Texas. So in your videos, all I've gathered is you've got autoimmune issues or one or more. Alopecia, is that how you say it?
One of them.
My question is, because it said you're a 2-time pro athlete. I want you to tell us what kind of athlete and what does that mean? And then were you totally fine before you got breast implants? And do you think this was all brought on by breast implants? Like I have Hashimoto's, which, is an autoimmune disease. And I didn't know what it was when they diagnosed me like 5 years ago. I had no clue. And I'm like, what? An autoimmune disease? What's that? And then when I started researching it, I realized I think I had the Hashimoto since I was a kid. And I just never knew it, like the hot flashes and stuff. I had a lot of symptoms, but it went undiagnosed and I was rail thin, like anorexic thin my whole life. And nobody diagnosed a thyroid issue, which is Hashimoto's. And so I think then I put breast implants in on top of an already existing undiagnosed autoimmune disorder and just escalated it. But other women claim that they got autoimmune issues after getting breast implants. So that's one of my questions coming your way. And where did it all begin for you? Like, were you totally healthy first?
Yes. So where to begin?
Where it began.
So let's start with, let's rewind back along almost 15 years ago now, maybe. My twins will be 16. So my youngest of 4 kids will be 16 in February. So after all my kids, I did have an original set of breast implants way back then. After the kids, the last ones being a set of twins, my body was, all women get implants for different reasons. Some it's, yes, for cosmetic, as far as they want more confidence, they want to, they think they're prettier, or breast cancer survivors also then get implants. So I was pretty how do you say it? I had one breast that stayed stretched out. It was like a full C, almost D. My other one was close to an A. So everything I was having to stuff, it was just what my body, how it reacted after all the kids. And then of course the last ones. So my first set of implants were saline. I had no problems, health problems.
What year was that?
Oh gosh, that was way back. Well, like I said, that was almost 16 years ago.
Like 2004 or so, or? Right.
606. No, I guess it was around 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. And I did saline because, and I went in, people didn't even know I had. Well, right. And, and the surgeon went in, many people, honestly, when they saw my news segment after all this, never even knew I had implants. It wasn't like I got them to show off to, it was, so I didn't have to keep stuffing my bra and my bathing suit. And it was for aesthetic purposes in that way. The first doctor I ever used was very good as far as, look, we need to just make these, it was just to make them even.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was it. Which of course, hindsight, I wish I would have just gotten them, maybe that one taken off, part of it. But then we wouldn't be here today. So never had a problem through all that. My whole life, I've always been healthy. I seriously, rarely, if I got sick, it was enough to, okay, let's go to urgent care. I think I had pneumonia once. I just was not a sickly person my whole life. Those implants then, come about 10 years. One of those, the saline, began leaking. And it was like, okay, well, these are 10 years old. It's time, right? They, technically about every 10 years, you're supposed to get them redone.
Right.
So in this time of my fitness journey, I had learned to become very in tune with my body, with everything I did. I was a natural athlete, so I didn't use steroids. And I have some pictures up here. But this is kind of what I did. This is when I earned my first pro title. So this was, I was a figure pro.
Well, and you had bodybuilding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. So we condition our bodies with
wow. Look at you.
Everything that you do is to get ready for the stage. Now, my background growing up was dance. So I did ballet, jazz, all of that for many years. So I love dance and music. And I just came to life on the stage. I loved it. So I was very in tune with my body. I learned so much more about my body than I ever did, as far as, how carb sensitive I was, what my body reacted to with certain things I ate, things like that. I was fortunate through the journey. I did about 9 years of, I guess, the fitness part, working out, getting into competing. I then earned, this was my Vegas show, the last show I did in 2017 to make my pro debut, but this was physique.
Wow.
So basically before I made this, when I made my physique pro title, I took a whole year off to build muscle because as a woman, it takes a lot more, unless you're going to use steroids. It takes a lot longer to build muscle. So, girl, I have been through invasive foot surgery. I had torn ligaments in my ulna and radius from working out. The foot surgery was actually just from all my years of dance. My big toe joints, and then of course some of the stuff in the gym. My big toe joint wore out. Certain bones just needed to be corrected. Through all of that, I was still in the gym. I got through it. I did whatever I needed. So yes, I was always healthy. Well, so when I got the new implants, the silicone ones, I went to a surgeon that was a friend of mine actually, and I'm getting hot. So here's what I look like with I try and wear my hat a lot. Sometimes it used to be a protective measure for my anxiety, which we'll get into later. But I went and saw this doctor who was a friend. He is in our local community. And some of the women that are on his staff, they were friends of mine and all of that. So I trusted him, right? Many of us trust our doctors no matter what, right? We go to a doctor, we pay them for their expertise. So in our initial appointment, you know, I was like, look, let's just redo them with saline, da da da. Well, he proceeds to show me the new gummy bear implants. He shows me one cut in half and he says, look, you know, and it was the textured ones. It was the ones that have been recalled by the FDA, the allergen textured implants. You know, he said, look, even if it ruptures, it won't leak, you know, and he squeezed it and it comes back like a gummy bear, like the gummy bears you eat, right, guys? So, and he said, considering with what I do for fitness, the fact that we put on weight as, you know, we're in bulk season, and then we lose all of our body fat to get on stage, he said those implants would be better for me because with the texture, it won't really move much, right? Under the muscle. So guess what? That's what I went with.
Oh, okay.
No, that's what I went with. I said, okay, let's do those. I trusted him, right? 3.5 years later in 2019. So all until that time, until 2019. So I had the breast implants for about 3 years when I started getting sick. No problems before that.
What were your issues? You were starting to get sick, like how?
So February of 2019, I was beginning to have problems breathing as far as I just couldn't breathe very well. That was the first thing. So, you know, I ended up in urgent care because, like I said, I'm rarely sick, but if it's bad enough, so I went to urgent care and I was diagnosed with bronchitis. It's like, okay. So, you know, they give you you get on your steroids or whatever, you do that. I recovered from that a little bit, still having trouble breathing throughout all this. It was like, I don't know. I just could never catch my breath. Working out became more difficult because when my heart rate would raise, it became more difficult to breathe. Still couldn't figure things out. Well, I get over that first bout. I end up with another bout of bronchitis back to back.
And you're not a smoker or anything?
No. And this is what was weird. It's like, I've never had problems breathing. Right. I've worked out now at that point, you know, like 9 years. It's like, what is going on? So then I also end up with pleurisy. I don't know if you've ever heard of pleurisy.
I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. You don't hear people with it.
Well, when they do, even grown men, you just want to scream and cry. So pleurisy is an inflammation of the lung. Oh. So from all the coughing I had done from the bronchitis, my left lung got inflamed. So basically imagine every breath you take, because you have to breathe all day, every little breath, you're in excruciating pain because your lung is inflamed. So then I had that, but like I said, I spent so much time coughing from the 2 bouts of bronchitis. So then I had pleurisy for a couple of months. Along at that same kind of time, I started getting more symptoms, still having the breathing problems. So I've got lots of stuff out, but I'll go over a lot of the symptoms that I had that year on top of the breathing. So eventually the breathing got so bad, I had to go see an allergist because I could not breathe. After getting over the pleurisy, the bronchitis, I was having, you know, attacks. It was like, I can't breathe. So I went to see an allergist. I was diagnosed with adult onset asthma.
Me too.
Really? I'm in my 40s, adult onset asthma. What? I had 40% lung capacity, only 40%. So obviously then I was put on maintenance inhaler. You know, one you had to use daily at certain points in the morning and at night. Then also your steroid one, basically for every time you have an asthma attack. And of course, a nebulizer machine, you know, in and out of that before going to see the allergist. I had been back into like the emergency room for not being able to breathe. They had to put me on, they had to do the nebulizer machine there, put me on oxygen, all that. So that's when it was like, okay, I need to go to see what's going on. So sure enough, so then I'm now having adult onset asthma and I'm just like, something's just not, what in the world? So obviously it changed up my working out stuff then. I mean, I was still in the gym, but it changed a lot of it. I really just could not get my heart rate up or I'd have an asthma attack. So along these same lines, I was having to go check in with the asthma doctor every month, check on the meds. And his concern was I was on my inhaler way too much. He said, you cannot do this he said, you're using it way too many times a day. And I was like, well, I can't breathe though. What am I supposed to do? So along this time of that, I was also I have it highlighted. Here's other symptoms I began getting before even discovering the rupture. I was getting uncontrollable twitching in my face. I still have some of them. It was really weird. I didn't notice a lot of it until if I was on video or something, it was like, fatigue, brain fog and memory loss, which I still have those really bad, muscle and joint pain, hips, muscle cramping in feet. My feet would curl up in muscle cramps.
Oh.
I had low libido. I also had a clenching jaw, I noticed, and weird things with my tongue. I don't know how to describe it. It was weird. I also continually got staph infection in my nose, right on the inside. I didn't realize what it was at first. It was sores and all that. And then the allergist was like, oh, you've got staph infection. So I had medicine for that. It just kept coming back. You had that too? Is that not weird? And I know it lives in our nose, but
I've never heard anybody else say it. So this is like a unique connection. Like I should bring this up on the boards. Yeah. I
yes.
had a sore inside, and it was like, and
Yep.
then if you blew or what, and you could feel the flap, and then I'd like pull the flap because it was
yes.
like,
And all you kept doing was pulling the flap.
Yeah. And then I had her test it and it came back. I had staph in my nose and I'm like, what?
And I did too. And I had it on both sides. So then I also had fevers, night sweats, intolerant to heat and cold.
Oh yeah.
Persistent bacterial, viral, fungal infections, which was basically like the staph. I also started getting some food intolerances, not too much. I do know I have it written down, ranch dressing. Man, I love some ranch dressing, but it did not like me.
Can you eat it now?
Yeah, I mean, I still have certain things that my body reacts to, as far as inflammation in my body with a lot of the new stuff that's happened. So it depends. It depends on what day it is.
Right.
I had, also my blood pressure was higher. My blood pressure on average ranges about 107 to 112 over like 70 to 74.
Yeah.
I have beautiful blood pressure, right? Well, it was getting into the like 140s, over 80s and 90s, and it was staying that way.
Did they tell you you had white coat syndrome?
No.
I kept saying, that's really high for me. 120 over 80 is what I peaked at when I was 9 months pregnant because I was really low like you my whole life. And they're like, oh, but you're in the normal zone. I go, yeah, for normal people. But that's not normal for me. I mean, something's wrong that I'm at 120 over 80. And they were like, no. And then it went up to the 130 and then it was 160 something. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Wow. And they're like, you just have white coat. I go, but all the other times I was there, you kept taking it again saying, oh, are you dead? You sure you're not dead? So I didn't have white coat syndrome then.
But you do when it's still in range, but it's not yours.
Figure it out, then it's white coat syndrome.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I had the blood pressure and I also had, it was my right arm and shoulder are what were the most pain, not my left. It was always like my right, which I didn't think anything of it. I had, I was obviously weaker in the gym, slower recovery time, even just doing the low weight stuff that I was doing. I was having a lot, the recovery time was more. Then I was getting headaches almost daily. Of course, the fatigue, loss of appetite. My head was in a complete daze, the fog, body aches all over. And let's see, I had numbness and tingling in mainly my hands, general like chest discomfort, which of course was, the asthma at this time, heart palpitations, changes in heart rate and stuff. Oh, and my tie-in. So a bicep tie-in is basically kind of goes from the shoulder to here. It's the upper part of the arm, and it was always hurting. I mean, always. It was like I could never recover from it. As time went on, I had things, dry eyes, easy bruising. I still have that really bad. Shortness of breath, weakness. Just see if there were any other ones here. Photosensitivity. I did not like the light. I was very sensitive to that. Night sweats, dizziness, sometimes nausea. So those were a lot of the symptoms, and they did get worse as time progressed. Also during this time, the asthma doctor was like, hey, I think you need to go see a lung function test. He said, you need to go get a lung function test and see what else could be going on with your lungs, a pulmonologist. It's like, okay. So I go to that appointment and I end up transferred to the hospital. While we're in, when you do a lung function test, they put you in that booth to where they do different tests. Okay, well, they put you in a booth. Of course, I'm claustrophobic, so they allowed me to have the door open a little so I could feel some air. But they basically put you through a number of tests of your breathing. Like they'll tell you breathe, out, hold it in. They're checking your lung capacity, your lung function, different things that could be going on. Now, some of the things that can happen, they say, is your left arm can start going a little numb. That's normal. Well, while we're in the test, I start feeling that, but then I also start feeling very dizzy, just not right. So they stop in a minute. We keep going. Well, then it got worse. Honestly, they thought I was going into cardiac arrest. My vitals dropped, the numbness, the pain. So I was basically going into distress. So they called the ambulance, and I was out in Clear Lake, and I was transported by ambulance to Clear Lake Hospital. It was supposed to be a routine lung function test. So when I get there, they go through all the testing of no scans, right? No CTs, nothing to check, because girl, by then, had they done like some kind of CT scans or something, they would have seen what was going on. They did like EKG, and they were like, nope, your heart's fine. So I get out of the hospital. Okay. Then comes September. By this time, I'm having more pain and fatigue, but I'm also getting to where I'm not eating. I'm starting to kind of lose weight. I have no energy at all. And I get a recall letter from the manufacturer of the implants stating, these have been recalled by the FDA for causing a rare lymphoma, the BIA-ALCL, whatever, And, I kid you not, like when we get recall letters from cars, right? You're like, whatever. So I kind of laughed at it, and I'm like, whoa, my boobs are on recall. That's not something you hear about. So I put it aside a couple of weeks. And at that time, because we know they're all listening, all of our devices, stuff started popping up on my Facebook. If you've been, possible damage by implant, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm starting to think, okay, maybe I should look into this more. So I call a lawyer, and they're like, okay, first thing, because I was like, what do I do? So I just called one of those lawyers that popped up on Facebook, and they were like, well, first you just need to go get a mammogram and ultrasound and just get your implants checked out. Right? It's like, okay. So I set up at, Memorial Hermann. I go in, I get a breast mammogram, ultrasound. And, it's taken a little bit, and the doctor comes in and she's doing some stuff, and she goes, your right implant is ruptured and leaking. And I froze at that moment. And I tell you, it was emotional because, you sit there and you're like, the whole year, I felt I was crazy. People thought I was a hypochondriac. I felt like I was a hypochondriac. And it was at that moment, and I asked her, I said, wow, I said, do you think this is why I could be sick? And she said, well, silicone in the body is not good. She goes, obviously it will have to come out. So I go from there, and this at this point is in October, by the time I could, get in to get a mammogram. And it's only within the second or third week of October. So I set up a consult with the surgeon that put the implants in. And I took him, all my film, the pathology report, which I have here. The original pathology report states, and this is what I take into the doctor, right? The surgeon that put those implants in, remember, that talked me into these won't leak even if they rupture, right? Mammogram report says the tissue of both breasts is extremely dense. The malar since human mammography. Okay, bilateral silicone implants are present. Implants may obscure, the imaging. Of course, they did ultrasound. There is bulging of high density material from the implant contour anteriorly seen on the right implant, displays CC view suggestive of implant rupture. Bulging of the impact contour is also noted superiorly and inferiorly on the right implant. And then it says, no significant masses calcifications, says needs additional evaluation. And then radiology reports just goes into, ultrasound, surgical consult recommended. But then it also shows, I guess I didn't pull the other one. I have a few of them. I guess it didn't show it on this one. It shows that, here's one of them, because I had another one this year. So I took that to I'll get into this year's later, or 2021's. So I took that in with the film, and while I'm sitting in there, the doctor tells me, and remember, he's a friend of mine, right? He says, that breast implant illness is not an official diagnosis. I'm telling him all my symptoms. I mean, I look like death in there. And he says, even if we remove the implants, there are no guarantees your symptoms will get better. Okay, wow. Okay. Then he goes, looks at my film, comes back, and he says, I'm not convinced the implant is leaking. I want you to get an MRI of the breast. So you can imagine I left there pretty upset.
Paying for all this.
I have a lot of medical debt.
Yeah. I mean, hey, let's have it another test.
So
we're all too broke by the time we figure it out. We don't have any money left to remove them.
I mean, yeah, because I had been I've got urgent care, emergency room visits from that year, from 2019 still. I mean, all the, so, I left there feeling not heard. I felt there, and I love my gut instinct. I know we have our gut instinct. I left there like, I guess that's typical of a surgeon to say that put them in you, right? So I had already had a second consult set up with another surgeon. I knew something this serious. I was like, okay, I'll go back to the one I saw. And then the following Monday, I had one set up with Dr. Polson in Clear Lake. Now, how I was referred to him is by someone on Facebook that she too had gone through explant surgery. They were killing her. I had never met her in person. I don't even know how. We have no idea how we became friends on Facebook. We could have been friends for like a year. I didn't even know her story, which I guess is a God thing, right? He puts those pieces together. So I was like, okay, well, I have another consult in a week. I called around Memorial Hermann trying to get an MRI of the breast done. Everywhere. I told them, look, I'll drive an hour. I'll drive to Katy. I said, I don't care. I've got to get in soon. I could not get an appointment. The quickest appointment I could get was Katy, which is about 45, 50 minutes away, the following Monday night. The following Monday morning is when my consult was set up with, Dr. Polson. So all this time, it's a whirlwind. I mean, within seriously 3-4 weeks, I've discovered I have a rupture.
Recalled.
This is a recall. I mean, I'm sitting here like, what is this? I'd never heard of breast implant illness. I'd never heard of, but then obviously I start researching and I'm like, oh my gosh. So in that week between seeing the two surgeons, I had completely stopped eating. Every breath I took hurt my entire body. It hurt to move, walk, anything. I literally felt like I was dying. So when I showed up at Dr. Polson's office the next Monday, he looked at the film, he looked at me, and, he was a firm believer in breast implant illness. And he had me in emergency surgery the very next morning. And I tell you, from then on, that surgery, and so I have pictures. When I came out of surgery, I can tell you, I had a lot of symptoms within a few hours that were better. Even right out of surgery, my blood pressure was already better. Mm-hmm. So he did do a full, enbloc capsulectomy. They did, cut off most of my own breast tissue. The capsules came out, and because of the severity of the damage, which I'll show you shortly, and how severe it was, he made sure to thoroughly clean me out a few times with antibiotic, as well as had me on, antibiotic IV, which they do normally anyways. But come to find out, which, he didn't tell me a whole lot that day. Of course, you're still in and out of, anesthetic and all that. So I go home. So I go back in a week for my follow-up, and he comes in with this small stack of photos. And he tells me, Cindy, I have never taken this many photos of a patient. He goes, you are the worst rupture I have ever seen. And he had his entire staff come in to the surgery to show what happened. So basically, this is what they're supposed to look like, right? That's my left one. That was my right one. It's an egg yolk. For those of y'all that haven't seen on Facebook, I'm sure y'all have seen that's my left one and my right one. So this is my capsules. This was the left one, which, is still nasty looking. We've now learned, right? Toxins and all that kind of stuff. And then there's my right one that you can see has the black. And then you get into some of these might be too graphic if people want. I mean, it's the breast, it's the human body. But this was the first incision. As soon as he cut into the skin, the silicone is already just oozing out.
Oh my God.
And of course, this is scar tissue, and you can see like all the toxic, yes, that black, there's all kinds of no telling what metals have gone through my body and toxins. There's more of it. It's just, so here's him, that's just a lot of the scar tissue. Scar tissue, you can see a lot was removed. Something else real quick going into this, not to be too graphic, but the first surgeon also told me in that visit that yes, I knew I would lose most of my own breast tissue, but he also told me he didn't think he could save my nipples. And when
Oh,
I told Dr. Polson that, Dr. Polson told me, you need to run anytime you hear that. He said, that should never be a thing.
oh,
He said they can always be reattached. Yes, he said it's very rare that you have to lose the nipples. Yes.
on my explant video, he picks my nipple up on the video. You see this little round thing and he grabs it and he goes, oh, and that's your nipple. And he's like, got it. He's like, that's your nipple right here. And I'm like,
Now, did he reattach yours or did you
oh,
lose yours?
oh yeah, reattached them.
See,
They're
and
both
that's
really
what.
pretty.
So he kind of like moves them out of the way, but and then just more the surgery. And so here, of course, I was cut up like double mastectomy, which I'm sure you were as well, and just some more of the scarring. Now that is supposedly a gummy bear implant that is not supposed to leak if ruptured.
Right. Yep.
That is it being pulled out of my chest. And then here it is all gooey in his hands. Yeah. So
the gummy bears, I think we've all sat through the presentation because they tried to put gummies in me also. I had a rupture in 2010. I had smooth and I didn't know that they were bad to put them back in. So I replaced my textured after 12 years with smooth.
yeah.
But he tried to talk me into the gummies and I refused, and again got the presentation. Oh, you can cut them. Look, squeeze,
Right.
squeeze. They're not coming out. They're not coming out. I refused and went with saline again.
Yeah.
I think they should ban the silicone filled ones. I think they should probably all be banned.
I think yeah.
But
a lot of the women have suffered from just because the shell is silicone, but I'm with you. I think at least, if anything, start with banning all silicone implants.
yeah, the silicone has to go, and the textured. I had the textured for 12 years. So I sit here wondering if I'm going to end up with BIA, ALCL, like down the road, because they did find a gal 6 years post-op, I guess.
No.
Yes, I thought, yes, just recently.
I worry about that
I'm
because
worried, yep.
the surgeon, he did tell me, they tested my tissue at the time of surgery for the cancer and it was negative. And to my understanding, he made it sound like if it's not present at the time of surgery, you can't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I assumed. But now I just heard it was within 6 months ago that they just had a gal end up with BIA, ALCL 6 months post-op, I thought it was.
Well, I've seen some of the women end up with different types of cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer. So, I do have a concern. I have not seen an oncologist yet. We'll go into more of my journey from after surgery. I do have a concern that what if one of the things I'm fighting is cancer within, because we have no idea where all the silicone could be in my body.
Right.
We know for sure where it is, but so we get through that. I get past, the surgery, recovery. Within about a month, I'm back in the gym. The doctor actually kind of ordered me to, because it was, as I'm sure it was very difficult. It was like not losing the implants, but it was traumatic.
It is.
But
I don't think people understand, especially it. And if men don't understand, I always say to them, well, if you were born with a penis this big,
I use the same
easily in just an hour surgery, make it look and be that big and it would be fine, and you were told it was safe, you do it. And so they sit and judge us, people sit and judge us, but and especially the women with cancer that, mastectomy patients, and then they rebuild them and they end up with the BIA, ALCL after surviving breast and cancer. Yeah. But I don't think people realize, we're doing it for a reason. Like, I just felt like mine never grew. But you're doing it for a reason. And then to have them removed, and then most women end up looking worse post removal. It's very hard mentally to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it is, because I'm left now with less than I had before ever having kids, So it was a lot of that to overcome. Just the trauma of it all, having been sick, having all kinds of emotions. You know, everything you put on looked completely different. And you couldn't, honestly, it took me a year to even be able to stand to look at myself in the mirror.
Aw.
You know, I got rid of tons of clothes that I knew I would never wear again because of how they looked. And it wasn't a vanity thing. It was just I realized after some time, why put myself through it? Why put on something that just reminds me of what used to be there and how it used to look? So that was kind of part of, I had to go through that for my healing, to only keep things that looked fine, looked okay with this, and move on from there. So it, you know, so it took about a year to even recover from that, which was really just right before I went into new stuff. But in that, so after my surgery and all that, I was ordered basically to get back in the gym. He said, "You're perfectly fine to go work out now." He said, "You need to," because he knew that's all I'd done for 9 years. He's like, you need to get up, you need to get back in routine. So I did. I started getting back in the gym, you know, little by little. I tell you, everything was different. The feeling at first, doing a push-up, there's nothing there.
Mm.
You're not feeling a muscle behind a breast, you know, you're feeling it's just straight muscle. And it was very weird. It was, you learn a whole new thing about your body, right?
How about laying on your stomach for the first time?
Huh?
Laying on your stomach again for the first time.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I can't sleep on my stomach, but you're right. Just even in the gym to go like on push-ups. Yeah, everything was different. Even how I mean, everything. If you're holding your phone, it's like there's no side boob. I mean, everything was different.
Yeah.
And so then about, I think it was January or February, I reached out to Lynn Cannon at Channel 11. I met Lynn a few years ago when I had my nonprofit and I was on Channel 11. And I reached out to him and said, "Lynn, would this be a story y'all would want?" And he said, "You know what? Absolutely." He said, let me ask. He goes, "I have one condition." He said, "Can we have the exclusivity to it?" And I was like, "Sure. Okay." I just felt my story, with it being new, the new recall and what I had gone through, never hearing about breast implant illness, I felt it needed to be told.
Mm-hmm.
So that more women could be aware, even back then, at the newness of it. And then now here we are 2 years later, and so many more women are coming forward. So, you know, I did that segment. Okay. I got a lot of criticism, a lot, because of, oh, well, they want to do that stuff for vanity. They want to do, you know, and I sit there and I'm like, wow, they have no idea. Like you said, a lot of women with breast cancer
Mm-hmm.
then choose to get that. They had no idea at that time they're watching my news segment. I didn't have breast cancer before and got implants. So be very careful who you judge and why.
Right. Yep.
I mean, that's
awful. They're really cruel. The critics out there are really abusive.
Yes. And but
I just smile now and I stand aside and let the wrath of God deal with them someday.
Yeah.
It's not my battle. Let them run their mouths and they'll see.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I didn't see a lot of those comments on that Channel 11 segment until almost a year later. And thank goodness, because I wouldn't have been able to handle them had I seen and realized they were there beforehand. So I did that. So now we're in 2020. Coming about, let me see. All right, 2020. Around March of 2020, we're now just a few months post-surgery. So first of all, before I had my explant surgery, in order for me to get the orders for my mammogram, I went and had my yearly exam, you know, your pap smear, your all that stuff, blood work, and then your OB writes the orders for the mammogram. So I did all that. Everything was fine. all my blood work, everything looked good. Here's your orders, da da da. Well, starting in about March, I started getting lumps in the front of my throat. They were painful. I mean, it looked like I had an Adam's apple. I kid you not.
Like
And,
lymph nodes? Are there lymph nodes there?
well, I think your lymph nodes are here. It didn't, I don't know. They were lumps like right here. And you could see them.
Like
and they
how
were,
big?
um, I don't know. Like the one in the middle protruded like an Adam's apple.
Like
They're
the
not
size of
nearly
a
as
grape,
as-
like the size of a grape or smaller?
probably about a grape. Yeah, I would say probably about the size of a grape. That's about a good size. And it was painful. I had it for about a week or two. Then it went away. And I was like, okay. I didn't think anything of it. Well, then come about April or so, it returned. And I was like, okay, I need to get this checked. So I found a primary care physician. I'd never really had a regular primary care because I was never sick.
Right.
I just never was.
No.
So I found one. She ordered some blood work, and then she ordered to get an ultrasound of my thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuff came back showing that I was in premenopause, and I did in fact have a lesion on my thyroid. So I do have a lesion. I think it was like 0.8, 0.08. I don't know. They weren't concerned. They said it doesn't look malignant. Just watch it. Which I'm about a year and a half past due of getting that looked at again, which I'm sure will be on my checklist of things. And so then it's like, okay, well, now I'm in premenopause. I was just fine before surgery. So that comes back, my primary care, and also in this time, I'd begun having anxiety. I was beginning to have all kinds of different triggers.
Just since the surgery, or did that start when you put the implants in?
No, it kind of started after the surgery a little bit. When I would go places, and to me, I was thinking maybe at first it was just because everything I do with what I did for work, being in the community, I was at different chamber events, luncheons, ribbon cuttings. I mean, girl, I loved to be where people were.
Right.
I love the community. I love what I do for it, just helping others. So I was everywhere. People wondered, how did I sleep? And, but it then became, whenever I was at group settings, I think at first it was probably more protective of, I was scared people were going to hit me and it would hurt.
Oh,
I didn't want to get it. I think it was like that.
bump into you.
Yeah. But then I noticed as some time went on, the anxiety got worse, which I think now is part of was part of the premenopause and all that. So the primary care put me on anxiety medicine, which I still take because the anxiety got worse. Let's see. I've got all my meds here. I guess I forgot to grab that one. Okay, so I have an anxiety pill. I guess I left that bottle over there. So she put me on an anxiety pill that I could take as needed. I lived on it. You can take it up to 3 times a day. I lived on it for a while, 3 times a day, later on in that year. She put me on a premenopause medicine that is non-hormonal.
How old are you?
I am 47.
Oh, okay. So it's not out of the ordinary for you to be heading into menopause. Okay.
No, it was just what was out of it was just odd that just
right after
a
surgery.
month before
Right.
surgery,
Yeah.
all my blood work came back fine.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, that's all we know. Yes. Was it related to the explant surgery? We don't know, except that all my blood work was fine before then because I had to get an annual exam to get the orders for the mammogram from my OB. So, she put me on a non-hormonal premenopause medicine that I've been on because of the history of the breast stuff. It was designed for women with breast cancer. So I've been on it. We have had to up it since then. So I take that. And then I also take a sleeping medicine. I take trazodone to sleep. I can't sleep without it, insomnia. So we go through that testing. Okay, we've got the lesion, premenopause. Then a couple months later, come maybe August, I'm dealing with still being in, and we're in, the hub of COVID in this time frame, right? In 2020, I had switched jobs because I was asked to come be a project or that's how my brain works. I can't even remember what I was asked to be. I was offered a job, so I went somewhere else, left the job I had been at for like 3.5 years, just because I knew there was more in me to do and I was being limited. Mm-hmm. So, but then after a couple of months when everybody got shut down and on quarantine, we all got laid off and they couldn't afford to bring me back on.
Oh no. After you quit your other job.
Right. But in this kind of time too, I had been playing with the idea. I'd already filed a DBA for Cindy Leach Consulting. I wanted to eventually do my own marketing and social media because that's what I love to do, is help market people. And then possibly use it for future, whether it's writing a book or getting to do talks, go around and do public speaking. It could all go under the hub of Cindy Leach Consulting. Because I knew that my story someday could get into other places, not just the journey of BII, but of also, like, I had to go through learning what true beauty really is.
Yeah.
Really focusing on, it's not this and this. And of course, now that even furthered, Well, in this time also though, the guy I was with, we'd been together. At that time, we were in our 4th year of being together. He had gotten laid off because of what he did, was definitely, taken by COVID. His job was removed and shut down for all of that. So you can imagine we have 2 people home now laid off. I'm still going through recovering from a surgery. I'm then thrown into premenopause. So I had a lot of stressors. Well, in this hub of about August, September to November is when the hub of premenopause hit. And I don't know, have you gone through premenopause?
Oh, I'm 57, so I'm post-menopausal now. Let me tell you, buckle up, baby. It sucks.
Okay. So you know where I'm going with this. Now, this
awful.
Anyone that's watching on Facebook, I have not really shared this part of my journey very publicly because it was very dark. As I'm sure you know, when you're not realizing what your hormones and stuff are doing. I had began having major aggression that I've never in my life had. I was throwing things. I was hitting myself. Like my head, my chest. I have a permanent scar on my right leg because I kicked a chair out of my anger. And it wasn't like I was angry at the world or at, it was, my boyfriend at that time, he had gotten a new job working 6 days a week, 12-hour days. He was never home. That played a lot into it as well, where I started feeling like I was put on the back burner more. I'm still trying to recover from a major surgery that I didn't feel like I was loved as is. And it's like I was screaming for attention. I mean, there was so much going on. It was hard because I'm trying to see who I am. I don't like looking in the mirror. I'm not feeling like this person likes looking at me, so it's like, who am I? So it got challenging. And I never hit him or anyone else, just myself. I mean, it was so hard. I can't even describe that dark time. And I knew that I had people tell me that, many relationships don't last through it. And you know, and I'm sitting here like, how can it be that bad? Well, I've been through it. So if you haven't been through premenopause yet,
It's
it's
awful.
rough, and it's not, you know, and you want to, well, I'm not really laughing now. It is very, very difficult. And for you men out there, when your spouses go through it, you better stick to them because it will pass. Just tell them to get on meds.
Yeah, I just went on hormones because and I would say to my husband, like, we'd start having a disagreement and I would just sit there and I'm like, I need to walk away. I need to walk away. And if I'd walk away, if he followed me, I would turn around and say, you need to just get away from me because I'm having visions of taking a frying pan and hitting you with it. You need to just back away from me because I'm having visions of hitting you. Please walk away.
I tell you, I felt completely insane. And you can't, who are you going to tell at that time?
Have you ever followed Suzanne Summers?
No.
Check out Suzanne Summers. She's got all kinds of books and she does all kinds of live videos all the time. But she, my brother who just died, he's the one who told me to look into Suzanne Summers about hormones. And she's the reason I went and made the appointment and got put on bioidentical hormones. I'm telling you, it's like night and day. I feel like calmer again. The tears, like you crying, I would have been sitting here sobbing with you two weeks ago. But I've been on them for 2 weeks and now it's stopping my crying. Like you crying, I would have been just like,
you'd have been crying with me, huh?
Yeah, I would have been crying right along with you, but the hormones have helped.
Now, I will say the one she put me on that's non-hormonal, this has saved my life. Now we have had to up it over the last few months. It's been flaxophene. It's, what's the other? Effexor. It's the generic for Effexor.
Is it Effexor? Is Effexor an antidepressant?
Yes, it is also an antidepressant slash, it helps with, so yeah, like my mood swings, I love it now. I don't have, when I went into the doctor that day, I remember telling her, well, okay, so back up just a little when I went into the doctor that day. So I wasn't on the hormones yet. We just had discovered the lesion. I was in premenopause, but nothing had really kicked up with the premenopause until about this time. So this was about 3 months of going through it. The first week in 2020 of November, maybe the last week of October, my boyfriend tells me he leaves on a Sunday. He said, I'm going to go stay with my mom for a week. So he said, I think we need a reset. Girl, I tell you, at that time, and those listening, because my whole life changed in that week. I was on my knees begging him not to leave. I was following his Jeep out the driveway. I didn't know how to handle that. It was rough. I'm going through stuff, all kinds of stuff I don't understand. And then the person that tells you they love you and are there for you no matter what
aren't there.
He's like, we need a reset. That was the worst week, I think, of my life, one of them. But also he left that Sunday. That Sunday night, I was on my knees. I gave it all to God. I said, I don't know anymore. I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. That Monday, I called my primary care doctor. I also called and made an appointment with a counselor at my church. I was able to get into both of those that day. That's when she put me on the meds, and I told her, I said, I feel like I'm going crazy. This is what's happened. Of course, I'm an emotional mess, right? My guy just left yesterday for a week, and I told her, I said, I'm angry. I said, other things that come with lots of testosterone. I was like, and she just laughed. She said, she's so good. I love my primary care doctor. She laughed and she goes, honey, she goes, your testosterone's way up here and your estrogen's way down here. She said, you're basically a 16-year-old male teenager.
Yeah. And the progesterone too is probably gone.
Yeah. I was like, I was like, you got to fix this. And of course, so we got on meds, and of course now I can attest they helped. I mean, it took, about a month to get in, or so, month, 6 weeks. But so I go through that week in counseling. I see that counselor Monday, Wednesday, and that Friday. All the time I'm in a little bit of talks with my boyfriend. I didn't understand that taking a break meant I don't want to talk to you all week. Yeah. And he, later after a few days, he's like, well, we're supposed to be in a break. And so that week it was rough. So he ends up coming back the following Sunday, right? Because he said he came back because it was just supposed to be a week reset.
Get his stuff.
No, girl, it gets worse. Let me tell you.
No.
But then he comes back, he does like one counseling session with me. And at this time, I recommitted my life to God. I spent every day going to God in the morning. I had to go to God numerous times throughout the day with my anxiety.
Were you always spiritual? And
I have always had my faith since I was little. I was first saved at 7 at Vacation Bible School. I was, in and out of church growing up, youth group. So I always had my faith in enough that I knew to lean on him. It's just, I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be with God. It had been a few years. I had the kind of faith that if something major happened, I usually was like, okay, you take the bull by the horns, but you still don't trust him for all the other little things. That wasn't there, and that hadn't been there in a few years. So I just knew every day I went to him because I was like, okay, I've got to work on me, what it's doing to my relationship, what's going on. And the anxieties, I numerous times in the day just had to go and sit and pray and talk and cry and whatever. It was a rough period for a few weeks. And when he came back, he couldn't understand a lot of my stuff. He was not spiritual. He didn't believe in medicines, didn't believe in counseling. So I was kind of on my own. But things were trying to get better. I was trying to handle things better. Instead of me taking my aggression out on yelling, I started to do like you did. If I felt those, I just went right away to my bathroom, got on my knees to pray.
Yeah, I gotta walk away.
Right.
My favorite line. I gotta walk away.
You're like, Jesus, take the wheel, take the whole car, please. So I had started trying to do some of the things my counselor was telling me and all of that. And, we get through Thanksgiving, and then it was basically about 3 weeks after he had come home. In this time, I could tell I was changing in certain ways as far as my relationship with God, and that I was really trying to hand a lot of stuff over. I saw some things work. And I tell you, it was a Monday morning, just about 3 weeks after he had first left. And a lot of people didn't know, they're seeing it now, that if they're listening, didn't know that he left the first time. I didn't want to say all that. I mean, he came back, so technically he left me twice, but on a Monday morning, about 3 weeks later, we'd gone to the gym early in the morning. He held my hand, come back, everything was normal. He had to leave the house by 7:30. So I usually got all his meals ready, packed his lunch, had his Jeep running. I'd help him with his tie. Everything's in the normal morning. On his way out the door, I'm washing some dishes that were in the sink. He comes to the end of the counter and he says, well, I think I know why things have been off with me, talking about him and work. And girl, I very calmly said, I said, you're leaving me, aren't you? And he left.
For another woman?
No, he just couldn't handle all my health stuff anymore. He just couldn't handle it all. I guess he checked out. He wasn't willing to put in the work with all of it, which was a blessing. I know now it was the best thing God could have ever done.
Right, but it still hurts really bad.
Well, it did, because you'd already gone through all
Right.
that. And then of course you're sitting there like,
Well,
oh,
and you just
well,
lost
what
your,
are you ever going to
you
want now?
yeah, you lost your support system, your main
Yeah.
support system.
Yeah. But you know what, girl, when he said that, and when I said that, and he goes, yeah, he goes, I just think we've gone as far as we're going to go. 4 years. This is 4 years, almost 4 years. And he said, you know, I should have thought longer before making this kind of commitment. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell did I know I was going to end up sick and boobless and crazy? I'm like, isn't that all relationships? So you know what? Apparently, though, in the time 3 weeks before, God had already been working on me. He knew what was coming. And yeah, it was hard. I didn't date again for almost a year. I didn't want to. I had a lot of stuff to work through. And when he left, I didn't chase him. All I did was call him after he left, because I'm still sitting here in shock. I did not see this coming. We literally just had a normal morning. And I just asked him, I said, I don't understand what happened since this morning. You know, I'm just like, what happened? And he just said it again, that he just thinks we've run our course. And so you know what, when I got off that conversation, I went, I prayed, I pulled myself together, and I calmly, I kid you not, if we called him up today, he could vouch for it. I calmly packed all his stuff neatly in all the suitcases we had, a couple of tubs. I even put his Christmas gift in there because I'd already bought it. I don't know how to be mean and heartless, although I want to sometimes.
I do. I can teach you if you ever need lessons. It's not a good virtue though, trust me.
You know, and he, I told him, I texted him later and I said, when you get off work, you can come pick your stuff up. It's I'll have it at the end of the garage inside. Just use my garage door opener, get it. And I said, there's no reason for you to come in the house. I cannot watch you walk away a third time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it took a lot of recovery through all that. But the point of that is, all of that is when my relationship with God, recommitting it, started, so that I had peace no matter how hard that hurt. I did have peace. And I've learned in this last year with all the new stuff and everything that happened, because only within a few months after that did my new stuff start, that God needed me to solely rely on him, no one else, with what I've been going through now. I've had to just rely on him. So I go through that. I get walked out on. I'm going through all that, and then March comes, March of 2021. I noticed my head. It had kind of been itching. I hadn't thought much of it. I knew my body was starting to kind of hurt some, but I'm like, okay, well. And then I had grown my hair out. So my hair was really, really short. So here's one of my photo shoots. It was really short. I could wear it in the faux hawk. So that's how it was. And then I had been growing it out from this time for a couple of years. So my hair was a little longer than yours before this glorious hairdo. And I'd mostly wear it up like in a little bun thing. I hated fixing my hair. I was like, yes, I can finally don't have to fix it. Let's just throw it up. And I noticed that it had like a hole. You know, us women, we always check the sides, back, make sure everything's. Well, I noticed it had, through some hairs, I was like, it kind of looks like a bald spot. And I looked later that night all through my hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of these. And at this time, like I said, I'm piecing together, my head's itching, but it also hurt, which is what was weird. And I've got lots of patches missing. Well, then it was getting worse. Over the next couple of weeks, more stuff started to happen. I was starting to get very fatigued. My muscles were hurting. And so I made an appointment. I had a friend of mine that saw the pictures on Facebook, and she worked for a dermatologist's office, a girl I went to school with. And she said, Cindy, I think you have alopecia. And I'm like, okay. So I go see the dermatologist,
Just
and
out of the blue.
yeah, I mean,
You can
I went
just
up
get,
in March, or I mean, my head had started hurting and itching, and I
so
just didn't.
people can just get alopecia just out of the blue.
Well, I mean, they can. I mean, a lot of the times you're born with it, but autoimmune,
Right. Rears its ugly head when it wants to.
and yes. So, see the dermatologist. She's looking at my scalp, and she goes over 4 different things that it can usually be with your head. She says, looking at mine, it looks like the androgenic alopecia, which is hereditary. And I'm like, well, everybody in my family has thick hair. None of mine have really like gone balding. My mom's still at 74, thick hair. I'm like, okay. And she explains the potential for hair regrowth with androgenic alopecia is possible. It's basically like male pattern baldness. So, you could do injections, steroid, she's going over stuff like this. And I'm sitting here like, you're not putting needles in my head? Okay, next. And so then we're discussing the pain, the itching, and she kind of looks at it with her little glass in areas. And she's like, well, your scalp does look inflamed. So she wants to do a biopsy. So she does what's called a punch biopsy, basically take a core sample of your scalp. And she's discussing the different things that it could be. And it's like, okay. So, and one of them is the worst one at the top, which ends up being one of the ones I have.
Of course.
Of course. So in all this time too, even with the alopecia, I'm starting to do research, looking for my biopsy result. I'm starting to do research on this form of alopecia, and as well as the other things that she told me it could possibly be, right? Because that's what us women do, right? I know what I got. So I just began doing research on the things and looking at the different symptoms and stuff with the scalp. And I'm like, I don't know, this one kind of really sounds like it. But then I'm also asking other women, come to find out, with alopecia as well, because I had known a couple of women that had, alopecia, and there's a few different forms of it. And I was asking about shaving the head, because I even asked the doctor, I was like, should I shave my head? Should I, what should I do in the meantime and stuff? Because my head hurt so bad and was itching so bad. And she was like, well, that's a personal decision. So after talking with a couple of other girls, they told me, they said, look, it was the best thing I ever did. It was a way of getting control of, because my hair and pictures, I have pictures on my Facebook. It was just starting to miss in a bunch of places. And so we did the biopsy. She gets the results. So I go back, and it was like a week or 2 later. And I had made the decision to go ahead and shave my head. And I had my best friend do it. And of everything I usually put public on my life, the process of shaving my head, I did not do on video, didn't do it live. My best friend, she used to do hair, and she's my best childhood friend. I went to her house, and she shaved my head. At that time, she cried more than I did, because can you imagine shaving your best friend's head? And I'm shaving it not knowing what the hell I'm dealing with.
Right.
But first she cut it, because like I said, it was kind of long. So first she cut it around, and then slowly started shaving it, and I didn't cry. I remember she gets done, and she's like, okay, well, go. I had to pee anyway, so I go in the bathroom, and she's waiting for it. She calls, and she's like, are you okay? And I came out, and I cannot describe to you the relief I had. The pain, the itching, the relief was amazing. It was well worth it. I said, I don't care
It helped the pain and your itching, getting rid of all the hair hanging. It was agitating.
Yes, and I'll explain why. But I came out and I was okay. I was okay. Now, granted, I still had moments from there. You know,
Right.
even now sometimes. I mean, who would have ever thought?
I know.
But so when I go back to the doctor for my results, because she wants to talk about them, I'd already, you know, we'd shaved my head, and I come in and she goes, and she's a wonderful doctor too. She was very sympathetic, but also she's like, honey, if you need to cry, cry. If you want to pray, I'll pray with you. You know, it was amazing. And she goes, oh, well, I see you shaved your head. And I said, yeah. I said, and I have so much relief. And she goes, well, let me tell you what's going on. And so my diagnosis came back, and here's my results. It came back multifactorial alopecia, lichen planopilaris, and androgenic alopecia. Basically, it's autoimmune disease, lichen planopilaris. So here's my pathology report that states, and lichen planopilaris is it's an autoimmune disease. Basically, she then gets into, you know, the whole thing of what's going on inside your body. She starts thinking of things because of the breast story. She goes, Cindy, has that gone anywhere else? She's like, could anything else have happened from the rupture? And I'm like, I don't know, because she says, so basically what lichen planopilaris is, I don't know if I'm saying it right, who knows. It's inflammation of the scalp. So my body is attacking itself, its largest organ, which is our skin. And it gloriously is doing my scalp as well. It's a very rare disease. Less than 2% of the population gets it. Guess what?
You got it. Merry
So what
Christmas.
it does, right? Merry Christmas, happy birthday, happy Hanukkah. So basically what it does, the inflammation is what was causing the itching, and the pain is from even the smallest weight on the hair follicle causes pain. So that's why I have to keep shaving it.
So do you shave it yourself now?
I do. I let my best friend do it, and then I did it myself. I, you know, got clippers, do it myself every few days. I started noticing, you know, after so many days, it starts hurting. So it's like, okay, I need to shave it, which I didn't understand that part until later, after shaved a few appointments. And I'm like, yeah, I said, I don't know why, but if I go a week, it's hurting. And she's like, well, any weight on the hair follicle. So basically what happens with that disease is the hair follicles, the more they stay inflamed, they will die. There is no regrowth. They just will die. And it causes what they call scarring. So the whole goal is to then keep inflammation down. But what's going on inside the body to cause the inflammation? So now we're taking this information. I've shaved my head. I'm going through severe muscle pain, fatigue. It hurts to walk. It hurts to do anything. You know, I'm out of the gym. I haven't been back to the gym in these 10 months now. So then we start talking about other things. She's like, look, I then went on ahead and got a new mammogram and ultrasound, because it's like when she said, Cindy, something is going on inside your body to cause this. So I then went and got a new mammogram, ultrasound, and that report comes back with talking about, I have lots of cysts in my breast. But then this was, I don't know when this was, May. I guess this was May yeah, 2021. It comes back stating, oh, this was an ultrasound, just an ultrasound, because I'm trying to do stuff. I have no insurance at this point, so I'm trying to do minimal. So I go to a her scan. It's a mobile ultrasound thing to try to get a $95 ultrasound. You know, I'm a single mom.
Mhm.
Obviously, with life changes, having gone through a divorce before my ex, and then when he walked out, I was barely making anything. I honestly did not know where I was going to live in January. And of course, you know, things have progressed. I still just keep trusting God because honestly, every month lately, I wonder where am I gonna, and my bills gonna be paid next month? Or so I truly, truly rely and trust God to take care of everything in my life now. But it came back silicone seen in right axilla. So come to find out, I do have silicone in numerous lymph nodes in my right armpit from that leak, from that rupture. So
You can't get that out either.
So I went and asked,
Hmm.
I went back to Dr. Polson after I found all this out. And he felt so bad for me because I'm sitting here like, had you known there was silicone there, why didn't you take it out? You know, I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, what is this? And of course, you know, he explained to me, he said, he goes, it's not like it happens all the time that the silicone gets outside the chest cavity. That is kind of
It happens all the time.
Well, he makes it sound like that it's not something that happens that often. And
I disagree with him. I'm sorry. I disagree. They all say that.
But he tells me then he looks at the scan and then he even finds it. He finds the clump. So it's in numerous lymph nodes. And he tells me, he's like, honey, he goes, I'm going to be honest with you. He said, the damage has been done. He said, look at you. He said, the permanent damage has been done. Obviously, this is irreversible. He said, if I was to go in and attempt to get them removed, a general surgeon has to do it, which I have no insurance, right?
Your lymph nodes you're talking.
Yes. Because it's not in one lymph node, it's in numerous. It's like a cluster. And he tells me, he says, you know, Cindy, he said, you could possibly lose the use of your arm because that's where all our main arteries and stuff are to function our arm. That's how much silicone's in there, how many lymph nodes. He said, you could lose the use of your arm or you could by removing them. Because with as many lymph nodes, I guess they're in, it's around, like he was saying, our main arteries and stuff for our arm function are around that area in our arm. Or he said I would end up with lymphedema. And he told me, he goes, Cindy, and what if they don't get all of it? He said, are you going to go back in? He said, you're not going to be off any better if they don't get it all. And he goes, now you're going to have possible other complications. So here we are. So here I am. I'm, now told, okay, you've got the silicone here. I'm dealing with the head, scalp, the body pain, and it's been hard to function. So the doctor put me on doxycycline, which is it's an antibiotic. It can cure malaria. It can cure anthrax. It's a broad spectrum, strong antibiotic. So we started me off with one dose. And then, we kept having to increase it. I have been now on a new med a month ago, but before that, the main thing was my scalp was not getting to where she needed it to be. The disease really likes to hit the crown of the head. So my inflammation is still there. It's red, it stays inflamed. So she upped me to the max dose of 200 milligrams, which you can be on no longer than 4 months. So we did that. And all the while, so let me show you, we've got anxiety med, premenopause med, sleeping med, which is like a horse tranquilizer, trazodone. This is my new one, but I've got a fancy prescription mousse for my scalp itching. Also, in this meantime, in the last few months, I also began getting lesions on my face, which I don't have any right now, but on my left side, I was getting a lesion, which on my Facebook page and Instagram, you can see it. I'll get them on my eyelids and right underneath. And I have discoloration that it just stays there. I look like I haven't slept in months. And honestly, I look older. I'm aging and I hate it. But of course, now I have a rash and I can show y'all some other stuff. But I began getting a lesion on my face and eyelids and stuff. And I started noticing it would be when I overworked. Because like I said, when I feel good, I still had to work and do stuff. Now I have lost some clients. Getting a job is challenging because I can't tell if I'm going to be in bed tomorrow.
So what are your clients? Are you a personal
I
trainer?
do marketing. No, I do marketing. But you know, a lot of clients, some of the clients I've lost because the way COVID and the economy, if they can't afford to have me market for them, if they're not getting business, then, but I haven't gotten new business. But also in that, I can't take on too much because then if I get stressed and overworked, my body attacks itself by coming out in lesions.
And
So
you probably can't wear a wig or a scarf or anything because it hurts and it agitates your
well, these
your follicles.
I have one that's like the crochet beanie that's soft, and then these are like those cancer caps, cotton. These are what I can wear that don't hurt because they just lay on the head.
So these women that have alopecia and they're wearing
Now they don't have the pain. Alopecia
Okay.
does not have pain.
Okay, because I was gonna say, my God, God bless them, because you know you got to go to work and they want to wear a wig, and the agony.
Yeah. Now see, if a lot of the alopecia, you know, they'll have smooth skin, bald head.
Oh,
I cannot shave my head. I am not allowed to use a razor because my head is covered in a bunch of bumps when it's inflamed. And so I can't do that. It would be very detrimental. So that's why my head just stays about like this, or sometimes I'll get it a little closer, because if I get it a little closer with my clippers, I can go longer before having to shave it.
yeah.
And it's actually makes the head feel better. So no, I cannot wear wigs. I cannot, and I'm fine with that. This part I have learned to accept.
Well, you look cute with your bald head. I mean, it's not like you look bad.
Thank you.
You
My
look
boyfriend,
good. I don't know if I'd look good bald, but you look good bald.
girl, I didn't care if I did or not. I was like, get this hair off.
Yeah.
So I have a prescription for when I get lesions on my face.
And you don't have any insurance.
Okay, so no, I have not had
Medicaid or
insurance.
something.
I have not had insurance until a month ago, which is a God thing. But so and I'll talk about that. So we get the this med, then we up my medicine, the doxycycline. So in the process of taking the doxycycline, I began to notice that my severe muscle pain and fatigue wasn't as bad. And, I told the dermatologist, and she was like, well, it is used for inflammation because we're trying to treat the inflammation on my scalp. So she said, it makes sense that maybe it is helping your muscles, right? So I was grateful for that. But we had maxed out the doxy, the 4 months. And so we had to switch meds. Now, she would have put me on Plaquenil, but I'm not able to take it because it has drug interactions with 3 of my other meds. So because the LPP is an autoimmune disease, she was able to put me on, I am now on immunosuppressant therapy.
Oh, wow.
Cellcept, yes, which is
like they put on for MS and stuff?
Yes. It's also used predominantly for like organ transplant donors or patients. They're on that the rest of their life. So we have now, in switching that, of course, my muscle pain, has had bouts of returning stronger. the muscle pain in itself and just everything over these last 10 months or so have made it hard for me to work. I did apply for a job somewhere, part-time, but I'm sitting there in an interview and it's like, well, technically I am sort of disabled. I am in the process of trying to file for disability because I can't hold a 9-to-5 job.
Mm-hmm.
I can't always get up early. I have to rest or take a nap almost daily,
Mm-hmm.
or my body attacks itself. It hurts to walk, drive. I can't hold my cell phone for too long before my biceps want to cramp up. Driving, I can't hold an umbrella for 30 seconds. My shoulders are burning. I've had to adjust, things with balance, how I put my shoes on, sit down sometimes to put pants on. I've had to change my entire life. I can no longer go to that many functions. The anxiety, a lot of times it was the bald head, but I just can't be around too many people. I was told
You
I
feel
have.
like you lost your coping ability? A lot of us feel like we lost our ability to cope with life. I was one of them. All I can say is I felt like I lost my coping abilities when I had the implants in.
Yeah,
Having autoimmune, and that was autoimmune, I think, triggered, which you're still going through. I think it's an autoimmune thing, the anxiety and stuff.
Yeah, and it's also just, I mean, I don't worry about being stared at. Not at all. It's more of just, it's, the counselor and the doctor explained it that it's like PTSD. So when I do go to functions, I have to have a way to escape. I now sit on the outside, the edge. I'm no longer the center of attention. But also through all of this, which is probably the autoimmune, is stress. Like I'll probably break out tomorrow or have stress just from if I cry and get upset. It exhausts my body.
Yeah.
But through all this, I don't raise my voice anymore. Sure, my kids love it. I can't, because I have literally learned, of course, I pray every day, right, for self-control as well. But if people around me, if it's too loud, lots of people talking, loud music, raising voices, like if my kids are going at it, I have to tell them, you have to stop. Because anything that causes my heart rate to raise, it exhausts my body and my body attacks itself. So I had to get to where there's a lot of stuff I don't attend anymore. And that's part of my job. So there's a lot of stuff that's been hard to adjust to, because I'm not at all who I was. And when people notice, I can't do anything quick. Everything I do is slow and methodical, because if my heart rate gets up at all, I go into having an anxiety attack. And then later, my body regrets it by either my entire body being even more sore or lesions. Mm-hmm. My body, I mean, it's just fighting itself 24/7. So, but it's been a beautiful journey, because God has shown me a lot more of what is important. And, trusting him, he's made it to where, as far as providing for me, I try not to worry about next month's bills and stuff. There was someone that did step up to help me. He's paying for me to have insurance right now. So January, because he said, Cindy, we need you, and we need to get you healed quicker. So we are doing our best to quickly figure out what else is going on. But in all these months, you get frustrated going around doctor to doctor. In 2019, blood tests come back normal, right? And, I'm sorry, I don't know why you're sick. Don't know what this is. Well, it's been the same thing over again. In 2021, I've been to, the dermatologist, of course. I've been to rheumatology. He doesn't even show that my muscles have inflammation. And I tell him, I'm like, so why does it hurt to sit or stand or walk? I said, I can't even hold an umbrella. I can't even, I have now seen neurology, and neurology is now sending me to neuromuscular. So the dermatologist is possibly thinking, her thoughts are that I possibly have dermatitis, which is an autoimmune disease because the lesions, my body attacking its skin, the lesions, which she said lichen planopilaris is a derivative of lichen planus, which is sores all over the body. Basically, like, she tried not to make it sound gross, but she was like, kind of like Lazarus and what do you call it?
Leprosy?
Yes, she said, I hate to say it like that.
Just learned about that from watching The Chosen.
Really? Yeah. So basically it's kind of like that. She was like, I hate to sound gross, but so she said, she was thinking maybe dermatitis because of the muscle pain and the skin lesions. And then also my fingers will get sometimes really red and sore and around the cuticles. So some of my symptoms are like that. Or she's thinking regular myositis, which is muscles, which basically that's muscle degeneration. So that's why the neurologist, so what's really cool, of all this time I've been going from doctor to doctor thinking I'm crazy, God finally put me in touch with, so the neurologist is older and he knows of the damage of silicone implants, the silicone in the body. So he said though that neuromuscular is what can do more muscle testing, like possible muscle biopsies, things like that, that he said, certain little tests that he did, he says, your nerves are fine. It's not your nerves. He goes, you've got nerves everywhere you can feel. He said, you need to get muscles tested. So he's trying to help get me into a neuromuscular doctor now. And we go from there. So it's been, every time I feel like I get ahead, I feel like I go backwards. And I tell you though, every day I have to trust God because I working is insane. Can't stand on my feet long. I can't, last 2 weeks, I think about 4 days now, I've had the most energy I've had in months. So this new treatment though, I'm still not for sure what all on immunosuppressant therapy, like, basically I am going to be highly compromised. I shouldn't even be working in a public place. That's what's going to make it hard because I can get even the common cold. Even if I was to get a cut, it can get easily infected. So these are things that, my doctor was like, Cindy, you're going to have to take a lot more precautions. She's hoping that when it kicks in though, that it will help all the muscle pain and fatigue as at least a temporary fix until we find out what else I'm fighting. But with that comes side effects as well. So I've been getting rashes, my back. I don't know how well you can see it, but I feel like I have chicken pox, but my back has gotten broken out with little red bumps and it breaks out. And they itch and they hurt. I've got some on my sides and a few on my stomach. Every now and then I break out, my skin gets flushed with hives, of course, stomach issues, nausea. I've only been on it 3 weeks now. I'm going into my 4th week. So it can take at least 6 weeks to 4 months to even kick in. But you get the side effects beforehand. So now I'm still on this path of trying to figure out what's wrong. All the while, juggle life. My twins that are still at home. I rarely wear makeup because it hurts. My skin, I know we had talked about this, my skin hurts to even put makeup on to take it off. I don't even know I don't want other women to go through this. I don't. I would have never thought I would have been here ever. I have a lot more peace in my life, but I tell you, some days I want to give up. I mean, to do anything around the house is hard, to want to clean, I mean, I barely have the energy to put clothes on. Most of the time, I feel like I look like a bomb. I used to always be in dresses and all of that. Now, you're getting me good enough if I have showered and brushed my teeth, and people don't get it. Even my friends. I mean, Facebook sees the good, bad, and ugly, but they really don't understand how hard it is every day.
Yep. I think
Every day. And I don't like to feel like I'm wasting time. I'm someone who went 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. I have no problem working. I have no problem. I can't do anything hardly anymore. And I feel like I'm lazy. And it's hard.
which then makes you feel more depressed.
You know, and I don't feel depressed. I think it makes me feel more
Defeated.
It makes me feel defeated in a way, but it also makes me feel useless.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't like that feeling, because
Yeah,
I used to be out there helping others and doing, and now I'm doing good to get up and.
Yeah. Plus, have you been checked for Hashimoto's? All these autoimmune diseases, I could be going full steam and then all of a sudden I hit a wall and I have to like lay down for at least 15 minutes and close my eyes because of the Hashis, and then regenerate. I can usually keep going, but it's awful.
I have sheets of blood work here. No lupus, no fibromyalgia, nobody finds anything wrong.
So when you had foot surgeries?
I had invasive foot surgery a few years ago.
Is there anything foreign in your feet, like rods or pins or anything that could be causing this? Because it's like it's almost as if you still have the implants in, and I get it that it could be permanent damage, but there's nothing foreign in you, dental, nothing that could be causing this reaction.
I do have a couple of screws in my foot, but I had those 2 years before.
I had the implants for 20 years and it just slowly kept getting worse. I'm just saying, is it possibly a reaction to those screws or something?
I don't think, because I had the screws in my foot 2 years before I got the bronchitis. And, you know, it's like I haven't had any problems until that February of 19, nothing. And then they discovered the rupture. And my asthma, I'm not on any inhalers anymore.
Yeah.
I haven't been on any inhalers.
I couldn't breathe. And so they sent me to an asthma guy or whatever. And he says, oh, you have adult asthma brought on by when you work out, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it just never made sense to me. And every time I'd start working out, I'd get really tight, like a pain down my left carotid. And no, my labs, like you, all came back fine. It's all gone. Yeah. Ever since they pulled those implants out, I don't have any of those issues anymore. But my friend has permanent damage, like it sounds like you have. My friend
the only thing, but there's no knowns for that we think what could have spiked my immune system as far as activated the lymph node activity as far as to my autoimmune was I had COVID the end of January of 2021. And then in March, and so people thought when I was losing my hair, they were like, oh, it happens with COVID.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, a lot of people have said that they've lost their hair after having COVID.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But they get their hair back. Mm. But mine, you know, she did a biopsy and mine is autoimmune. And that's when we discovered, okay, then there's silicone in the lymph nodes. So the only thing, and of course, even the doctors, when I mentioned that, and I'm like, well, could have the COVID been what activated, you know, when the immune system went into fighting, it couldn't fight as well. I mean, it's, you know, and then we don't know. all of them just tell me, they're like, they go, Cindy, there's no telling.
But again, like most of us, you were just fine before you put the implants in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people follow me. I mean, we have proof of all that from, they've been following my fitness journey, foot surgery, everything until that February when I had bronchitis and then the asthma. So all we can attest is that it must have ruptured, right around the beginning of 19. I mean, there's no telling, or it could have ruptured before then, and then it just took time to leak. I mean, they never know how long something's been ruptured, but it smothered me. It was smothering it had to be cleaned out of my ribs as well.
Well, that safe implant that they said wouldn't travel if it ruptured?
Yeah, right?
That's what they had to clean out?
Yeah, out of my entire chest cavity and ribs.
Yeah. Do you have a GoFundMe page going?
I had one that I had started right before my surgery because I knew I wasn't going to be able to, insurance only covered like $1,000. My parents ended up having to help. I was only able to raise, I think, like $3,500, and I haven't done anything since then. I guess that's hard for me to ask for help, and I'm the person who's always wanting to help others.
Yeah.
So I'm not very good at asking for help. I kind of have trusted God because I feel selfish, because in the back of my mind, I feel like I did this to myself.
No, you didn't though. We were told they were totally safe. That's what we were told they were safe.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not very good at that. I mean, would it help? Yeah, because I honestly, I don't know what's coming. I don't, of course I've gotten to where I know I can't stress on bills. It's like, there's nothing I can do. If I end up having to move back home and, my kids have to live with their dad full time or something, I try not to think about that. I literally do take one day at a time. And just trusting, I mean, God has brought people into my life that have helped, gift cards for groceries or helping pay for insurance, helping pay bills. And that's, at my age, that's kind of it's kind of embarrassing.
I know how you feel, but I mean, you hit a bump in the road that wasn't your fault. I know you think it was your fault, but it wasn't. And it wasn't. So I know you feel embarrassed, but none of us think any less of you. We all went down that rabbit hole for different reasons. What about the women who did it, after a mastectomy and stuff, and then they ended up with cancer again, the man-made cancer? I mean, I get what you're saying. I went through it too. We all go through it feeling that way, but I don't think you should feel embarrassed. And we'll post your GoFundMe page in the comments on all these links wherever it gets shared, and maybe.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. I guess it's still sitting out there. I don't even know. I would have to update it, I guess.
Well, let's see if we can get you. I mean, even just a little bit would help. Let's see what we can do. You poor baby.
Oh, no. Well, and one thing, I am pretty resilient. So even on the days I want to give up, and they know it too, when I want to give up, I lay down, I kick and scream, and I'm like, I give up. And then in the same breath, it's like, dang it, Cindy.
You can't.
How? I don't know how.
Well, I wanted to give up so many times because I had depression when I had my implants in. Bad suicidal depression. And then when I got them out and I started the support page and I started helping people, and then they're messaging me their stories, and it's people like you, and I'm sitting there in the middle of the night because I can't sleep with my insomnia, and I'm sobbing. I'm just sobbing all night long because you read their stories and it rips your heart out. And then I was like emotionally tanking because I couldn't there were so many other women that were so I get what it just takes a toll on you.
And then, I'm like you.
And then you came along into my news feed.
I guess God brought me to you like he's brought other women to me.
That's what I'm saying. So, I want to give up too a lot of times because it's so overwhelming trying to help people, but it's emotionally overwhelming because you feel their pain and you know what they're going through. But, and then people will call me and say, you can't stop, because look at all the people, or I'll get a message, oh my God, if it wasn't for you, I'd probably be dead. So if it wasn't for you, Cindy, I don't know if I would have been able to get back up on my feet after losing 2 family members in 4 months. But you kept showing up in my news feed. I don't know you. You kept showing up in this bald head and you were just smiling and telling me to keep going and have faith. And so there is a reason why you're still here, because you helped me. And then I was then able to continue on and help others. So we're both here for a reason. But so when you feel like you want to give up, there's people like me watching you that we're quietly watching you. And you don't even know we're watching. I watched you for a long time and then I started commenting.
Well, that's kind of all that, I can do now, is at least help other women, encourage them for their good days.
It's happening for a reason to both of us, and you're here to help others, I think, because you can.
Yeah.
Because you've got the faith and you've got the attitude, and I'm drawn to you because you're so positive and you don't give up.
I also want, like you, I look at you and the people watching, please remember that just because someone doesn't look sick, I know that's been the hardest thing for a lot of the women that have reached out to me. In 2019, I didn't look sick. Now people just think I have cancer. And usually my response is, no, actually, I wish I did, because that'd be easier. Yeah. At least we'd know what it is. But, just
you get used to being sick.
Yeah, but
people don't realize how sick you are. And then they'd say, I didn't know you were sick. And it's like, because you can't go through life like that. Like, how you doing, Tracy? I feel awful today. No, you just smile and go, good. How are you?
Now, I will say some days I do. When people ask, I have gotten now, I have been more vocal at stating matter-of-factly truth. As far as if someone asks, I'm like, you know what, today's a good day, or you know what, I'm sore today. But you're right. I'm not going to walk around every day like, oh, my life is ending.
Right. And people don't realize how much pain people are in, how awful they feel. They don't realize.
In general, people need to have so much more compassion for humanity.
Chronic illness is awful.
I've learned through this, that is definitely one of the things that, because I don't look sick or someone else is going through BII doesn't look sick, you and I both know on the inside, they wish they weren't even alive at some point, because it's so it's so hard to battle something that you're not even sure what it is.
Right. You're debilitated and you don't know what knocked you out of the game.
Yeah, it's like I'm sick and tired of saying I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being tired.
You should see when I was invited out onto Annette's boat, and so she starts picking up all the other women on the lake. So I didn't know Annette. I didn't know any of these women. And they're all like, so Annette, how are you feeling? And she's rattling off all these things. And I'm thinking, those are all my symptoms. And I said, did you ever figure out what it was? Because I have all your symptoms. And she's like, oh, and they all turn and look and go, do you have breast implants? And I'm like, yeah, for 20 years. And they're like, oh, it's probably your breast implants. I thought they were nuts. I really thought they were crazy. No way was it my beautiful breasts that were killing me. No way that I paid for to have beautiful breasts, and now they're killing me.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't know. And I have friends who have implants and they don't appear to be reacting, but it's a silent killer. It's like smoking cigarettes. All of a sudden, out of the blue, you could end up with lung cancer. You think you're fine all these years. Oh, I never get bronchitis. I never get anything. My lungs are good. And then you're going to end up with lung cancer. It's a Russian roulette game, I think. They're silent killers. They should be marked a carcinogen, just like cigarettes.
Yeah. So my journey still continues, but I'll continue to keep sharing my journey. But, also just now I want to help redefine beauty. That's kind of my my new mission this year for our younger girls and teenagers, because I have, daughters, 2 of my 4 kids are girls. How they're flooded with social media, right? They're flooded with what beauty is.
Right, but Kardashians.
Yeah, the
Barbie
TikTok,
dolls.
the Instagrammers, and it's just it yeah. So now it's like, how do we redefine what beauty is? Because beauty really is how you are, not how you want to be. It's how you are. Embrace what we are, because we're all beautiful in our own way. We've all got different unique talents and pieces about us that make us unique. And it's like, let that be what we bring forward.
Right.
Not what we look like. I mean, I lost, within 2 years, most of my breast and my hair. Ooh, those are the epitomes of beauty. And a boyfriend. I tell you, I make this joke. Oh, and my ovaries shut down. I make a joke. Oh yeah, because the premenopause, so I've lost my ovaries shut down, I lost my boobs, I lost my hair, and I lost my man. I always make the joke. If you like a country song, if you play it backwards, I get all that back, right? But you know what? I've learned though, I wouldn't change a thing. I don't want him back. I do wish him well. It took me a while to get over that, but I do wish him well. I know that God had a different purpose for me, and he has, someone for me in my journey now. But he also had to put me on this journey to bring me back to him and to utilize it all. Yeah. And literally be stripped of a lot of stuff that defines beauty. And I'm okay. I'm okay with, I told my doctor, I said, look, I don't care if I ever have hair again. Screw fine, getting my scalp fixed and my hair. I said, I can live with no hair. It's honestly been freeing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's probably liberating.
I tell you it is. I don't have to take no time to get ready. The first time I stood in the rain with my with no hair, I did that on live Facebook and I cried. Oh, there's so much more beauty now that I see in a lot of things. As far as all my stuff can be used now to help other women. And like you said, women that have reached out to me to say, you know what, I wanted breast implants, but not anymore.
But that's right.
And
when
they're going through something and they're like, oh, I'm not crazy. No, honey, you're not. I mean, we're all women are crazy, right? But you're not that crazy.
That's right. We're out there watching all your videos from afar. So you don't realize how many of us are actually watching you quietly. But we are watching you. So he left you here for a reason with us, and he gave you these issues for a reason.
Yes.
He gave me, I really am convinced I got breast implant illness for a reason, because I have a big mouth and I would tell people. I wouldn't be embarrassed to tell people. At first I was like, oh my gosh, I was embarrassed to even tell my son that so 20 years ago, I got breast implants that you never knew about. Yeah, that was a fun conversation.
Luckily my kids, we're very open with my kids. So, I mean, they knew I had them, and my twins, boy, girl twins, my son was actually at my explant surgery. He missed school so he could be there.
Aww.
And when I had to shave my head, I tell you, I asked my kids, are you going to be embarrassed by me?
Never.
And no, they have embraced me, and
I'm sure they're just glad you're alive.
Yeah, but you always worry, right? I mean, you've got these teenagers, and it's like, you're going to be embarrassed by bald mom. I mean, all those kinds of thoughts go through your head. And no, so I'm very blessed. I'm blessed with all my kids. My oldest daughter's a cancer survivor. She doesn't like people to tell her story, but I remember when I shaved my head, she told me, she's a 10-year ovarian cancer survivor now. She told me, she goes, Mom, just remember, I'm the OG in bald. And then I have my oldest son is in the military. He's
OG?
Original.
Oh.
That's my term for original. Yeah, she tried to tell me she was the original in bald in the family. And then my military son, I make the joke to him now. I'm like, oh, son, you know, because military, they have to keep, you know, the real short. I told him, I said, son, you have more hair than me now. you know me. I always try to find humor somewhere. So, but yeah, we keep going, right?
We do. We keep going. I keep going because of people like you.
Well, thank
Honestly,
you.
I'm very serious. That was like the worst time in my whole entire life. This the last 6 months. Well, since last May. Well, last year was the worst year of my whole life, and I got through it because of you and people like you. But you, every day you showed up in my news feed.
Thank you very much.
And you helped keep me inspired. So when you sit there and get down and feel like you can't go on, keep that in mind, because there's more than just me sitting out there quietly watching you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry to hear that you've gone through all of this. It's awful, but I'm glad that we're able to bring awareness to other women.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
doesn't end up on the edit room floor. I'm so glad that they do stories on us on TV, but a lot of it ends up on the edit room floor. And I don't think people know a lot of it. What do you think about the legislation going through?
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on trying to help with on the Texas side. I've been reached out by one of the ones in, I don't remember which state. So I'm going to try to help with the for Texas on that team. And, you know, I think it is that it should be in legislative as far as testing should be done on women, you know, blood work before they get implants to know, like you said, you had Hashimoto's, didn't even know probably, you should have never got implants. You should have never been allowed.
That's right.
And I think that
I should have been warned, but they should have said, they should have said no, I agree. But if they don't want to take away your constitutional rights, which they're doing all over the place right now anyway, they should have at least warned me that I had an autoimmune issue and I shouldn't get them.
Right. At least the informed, you know, things that we're not told. But you know what? At least we can be thankful now that the black box warning is on these things.
Yeah.
You know, the highest warning given, the doctors have to, you know, state, hey, this could go wrong. Oh, guess what? It could leak. If it
We have a Michigan doctor here. I watched his Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and he had a new kind of implant that had 2 layers of silicone in the shell. So if the one inside shell broke or the outside broke, you were still protected with another sack. So they're doing like a double sack. And somebody said, are they safe? And he said, oh yeah, they're all safe except for the textured.
Oh,
that's an outright lie. That is a lie. They have a black box warning for a reason, and you're lying. It's just awful. And this is just 2 weeks ago or so that went on.
Yeah.
And that's,
you know, I agree. I'm not trying to tell women don't do this. I'm not trying to shut plastic surgeons down, but you know,
warn people.
Exactly. At least warn them, at least tell them this could happen. Please go research. If anything, to have informed decisions. But we trust our doctors that pay all that money to go to med school to tell us what's best for us.
That's right.
And I think what upsets me the most of this is, you know, the surgeon that put these in, nothing's changed for him.
Right.
I removed myself from him, all the people that work in his office. You know, do you think they care or reached out to me after I lost my hair and I'm battling all this? He's still selling gummy bear implants because I see his advertisements on social media. He's still sitting there just living luxury while many of his patients are, you know, me, there's probably how many more. The thing is, the sad thing is, yes, this manufacturer's in trouble, and it, you know, the legal suit there, the doctors, nothing happens to these doctors that sell
pharmaceutical reps.
Yeah.
So you have the drug pushers who bring all the drugs in from Mexico and stuff, and then they get the drug pushers to be the in-between man to take the drugs and get them to the streets to all the people or to all the distributors. So what about these pharmaceutical reps? Why are they so free and clear? They're the ones not warning the doctors possibly and telling the doctors that these are totally safe. These are totally safe. Why are we not holding their feet to the fire? That's my question. These pharmaceutical reps have been scot-free.
Yeah.
I think they're just as liable, if not more, than the doctors, in my opinion. because they're the ones pushing them.
Yeah, I think the only reason this one is getting where it is because the FDA technically was never supposed to put these on the shelf ever. So they're in trouble because they hid stuff. But it's like, well, how much more stuff is hidden way out there? I mean, that's why I don't trust, I know all the COVID people I did get my vaccination finally. I the first to say I didn't believe in it. I didn't want to be forced. I hate wearing masks, especially having, had asthma and stuff. But I made the decision myself a few months ago to get the vaccination. And actually,
but you
I
have
would have gotten it anyways, because being on the immunosuppressant.
Yep.
She told me, she goes, well, I was going to tell you to put you on this. I would have had you get it because you're going to, you can get sick a lot easier. So it's just all that kind of stuff. So anytime someone says FDA approved, I laugh. I know. Like, I'm bald from something FDA approved.
The CDC and the FDA. I just sit there and I'm like, oh God.
I'm like, please, the FDA don't throw those big words. Oh
yeah, the FDA, good old FDA. So here's our book that I was going to give away. Do you know Tara?
Yes. I do. I don't know, not in person, but yes, Tara is another one that's helped me get through this. And I even have her book. Yes. So I thought that was so cool when I saw that on my feed that you're giving that book away. Yes. That is amazing.
So for anyone who's watching, if you want to be in the drawing to get this book, all you got to do is share this video and then type in the comments book. And then I'll put you all in a drawing, whoever shares it. But it's a great book. I read it on the way to the FDA hearings in 2000.
That's funny.
That's where I met Tara. So I read this on the way on the plane on the way to the FDA, and then I met Tara at the FDA. And
that is so cool. I have not got to meet her in person. Yes, I have her book.
Easy. You could read it in an hour or two. It's very fast, and it's just a great story. If I just gave one away the other day to somebody who did my astrology. And then she said something about her friend or her sister or somebody had breast implants. And I'm like, I'm going to send you a book.
Right.
So
here's I'm sure I'll eventually have a story of my own come out. I love to write. I am I've been a columnist, things like that. I love to write. And I don't even know. I haven't even started page 1. I have all these ideas, but it's
me too.
It's, but the story will be told of yes, going through the journey, but the triumph of it. And of course, for me, how God played into every detail of it. So, someday I hope to have mine too, but I know my journey is not over yet. So I've thought about that too. I was like, well, maybe I just need to wait till I have my official diagnosis or, other diagnosis.
Yeah, I was going to say, or another autoimmune disease pops up on you, because it seems like you're just going to get all of them now at this point. The autoimmune disease truck dumped in your driveway, just backed up and dumped all over you.
Yeah, it's like, maybe we'll just name it, Cindy Leach.
Are you getting bored? Let's give her another autoimmune disease.
I said that to God one time after my breast surgery. I have it in my Bible, a sticky note that was at some point that said, God, anything else you need me to lose in order to draw me closer to you. And then a few months later, voila, I'll take your hair. And I'm like, all right, God, you got jokes. Okay.
Oh my God.
Even though it is a struggle, every day is a struggle. I do know I'm still way more blessed than a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I've also learned to take my good days. I don't take any day for granted, but my good days, I especially hold dear to, because it's like, I can do a little bit more this day. I can, and it just reminds me there's still hope. There's, I know I'll never be cured. This LPP, at least that autoimmune disease, is not curable. I'll be on medicine the rest of my life.
Yeah, you can't ever come off that suppressant medicine, right?
Well, see, that's just probably not, because the other ones didn't work. She said our goal is to eventually get someday down the road to where I'm only having to take something 3 times a week.
Oh, nice.
But now that we've had to switch to an immunosuppressant therapy, I have no idea. I have no idea what's in store with it, or if we find what other autoimmune disease. Actually, if I am fighting like a dermatomyositis or a myositis, CellCept is the drug for it. It's not curable though,
Yeah.
but it can go into remission. I mean, all this, so it's just, this is my new way of life, and I've accepted that. I've just got to figure out other ways around it.
So
how do I make money
now? So how can you, so if people are watching and they're like, wait, I need a marketing person, exactly what kind of person contacts you for what?
Anything. I have a restaurant I market. I create their content. I do kind of like a local influencer as well. Here, like around where I live, I'll go somewhere, I'll post pictures of the food, I'll talk about it. I love that stuff because it's helping a small business. And my clients are small mom and pop shops. That's my passion, is just helping get awareness to their business. And I cost like half the price of what a marketing firm, yes, mine's going to be more limited, but I add a lot of different
personal touches
stuff to it. Yes. It's like what makes your business unique, but it's not just about your business. It's about you.
Okay.
Why did you get into this business? What's your passion about it? I'm a human interest person. So that's how I do my stuff. And so they can just find me on Facebook. I even have a page, Cindy Leach Consulting. Most of my stuff just goes on my personal page that people have been following. Yeah, it's what I love to do. I used to be a lot more creative. That's kind of been the challenge as well.
It's hard when you got brain
brain
fog all the
fog.
time. Yep.
Yeah, and I can't remember stuff, the short-term memory loss kind of.
I have
remember
short-term memory issues now since the implants.
Yes.
I don't remember a lot of stuff. Like somebody, Jane said, oh, remember we just talked about your curtains? And I was like,
nope, you probably won't.
We did.
And the realization,
I'm noticing I'm having bad short-term memory issues.
Yes, the realization of that happened just a few months ago. And that was probably harder to accept than losing my hair, because I used to could multitask like crazy. And I was helping one of my clients. I worked behind the bar a few times at a coffee shop during the week. After a month, the same customers come in that I'd already known because I frequented that shop.
Remember anyway. Their order.
It's like I knew them. They would order the same thing every morning. And each day I could not remember their order. By the end of a month, I still did not know their order. And I had a teenager that was like my trainer fuss at me one day. She was kind of nasty, but she apologized once she realized that I was sick and she didn't know it. That was the realization that I'm no good in certain capacities, that I can't even remember someone's order that they've been ordering probably at least 25 days this month every day.
Right. Yep. No, I know.
It's like my brain resets. It's some days it feels like Groundhog Day.
Yes. And like, I'll say, we watched that episode. I don't remember any of it. Like, I can't remember movies. Like my son will say, Mom, watch the movie. We did. I don't have I don't remember watching that.
And I tell people, and so now it's almost like I have to introduce myself, and it's like, I'm just going to tell you now.
I have memory.
If I legitimately tell you, I don't remember that, please know it was not the fact I wasn't listening. I won't remember some things. So a lot of stuff I have to write down. I'm seeing a new guy. Facebook doesn't know it. We've been seeing each other about 6 weeks, talking. And I had to start that off in the beginning. It's like, I'm just letting you know these things I'm asking you, I'm writing them down because I won't remember them.
Oh no. Yep.
But you know what? The amazing thing is about him though, is he actually is a dermatomyositis survivor.
Oh,
he's a retired military. And God kind of put us together, his faith walk. And so he is actually the first person who completely understands everything I'm going through. And so that's a nice feeling right now. So it's going, taking our time slow. It's helping me though, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah. So I'm at least seeing someone that's on the other end of like that, should that be what I have.
Plus
Um,
he understands going through stuff too.
yeah, he just understands, yeah, the fact of going through stuff that, you know, I can't do this. This is not who I am. I'm not going to go on long walks. I'm not going to go on, you know, it's okay. My memory, all of that, the fact that I have to rest and take naps, he still rests and take naps, even on the end of it that he's on. And, that, you know, I haven't had, so this,
Well, good.
it
See,
helps.
do you know the Garth Brooks song, Unanswered Prayers?
Yes.
See, it's Garth Brooks. It's your unanswered prayer. Like
Yeah,
you
so
don't
I just
want
put
the
the
other
cat
one
on
to
the
walk
back.
out.
Whoever's watching on my Facebook, they're like, she's seeing someone? Yeah, trust me, you won't see pictures for a
Well,
while. He's not on social media at all.
You didn't want the other relationship to like blow up, and then you sit there and pray, oh God, bring him back, and then he doesn't come back, and it's an unanswered prayer. And now look, God put somebody else in your path, and maybe that's why it was the plan the whole time.
Yeah, this one is gonna stay private for a little while. He's not on social media, which is nice. And like I said, he's retired Air Force. He's,
Oh, cool.
yeah, so
See,
yeah.
it's all gonna work out.
Oh yeah. Now we can just figure out how many autoimmune diseases I'm fighting. We'll be good.
I don't know if they're ever gonna stop. I'll pray for you though, that this is the end of the road.
Right? I guess it's gonna be one a year, huh? I'm gonna have to start making trophies for my autoimmune. So this year I was presented with this autoimmune disease.
Oh my
This
gosh.
year, this one. You know, I have to find humor. I love having a sense of humor. If I could be on Saturday Night Live, that's been like my dream. Just raw humor, just, you know.
What's with the Hulk behind you?
Oh, so in my fitness stuff, I was considered She-Hulk. And then someone even took one of my images and cartooned me. I did have a big lime green Jeep. Her license plate was She-Hulk. Her name was She-Hulk. That kind of has been my icon in the community as well. So when we had a car show at church, we had a movie series before the car show. And so this cardboard cutout was there. Well, they gave it to me because they were just going to trash it. So I was able to put the Hulk by my Jeep. But then unfortunately, about 3 months ago, I had to trade my Jeep in because it was getting harder to get in and out of it.
Oh.
Because she was lifted. I can't take her apart. I can't hang out in the sun. It's like I'm a vampire now on these meds. I can't be in the sun. So I was not able to utilize it as she was intended for anymore. So I now have a mini coupe that's license plate is Mini Hulk.
Aww.
You know, it just kind of went with my fitness theme, and I just became known. And of course, people are like, "Well, you're still always going to be She-Hulk to me." So this is who I tell people. This is my boyfriend. This is my man. So he hangs out in the dining room and he eats all my food, as you can see. So
I love it. Lou Ferrigno, I love it. I had a Mini Cooper. I loved my Mini Cooper.
Do you really? I do. I love it.
I don't have it anymore. I sold it, but I loved that Mini Cooper. I had a ball in that, but I was always putting the convertible top up. I had the implants in, so I was always inflamed. And so when the sun hit me, it felt like a piece of bacon frying because I'm Irish and English. So I was all inflamed, and then the sun would come out and I'm like, I got to pull over and put the stupid top up. So I told my husband, this is ridiculous. I can't even drive it with the top down. And
oh, well, mine's my convertible. So, but it does have like the two, you know, whatever
skylights or whatever,
those things. But because of the sun, very rarely are they open because I couldn't have sun on me with the Doxy. And then now definitely the Cellcept, I can get, I'm at a higher risk. That's something else she told me because of the implant recalled for the rare lymphoma. Cellcept can cause lymphoma, but I'm at an even higher risk now because of what has happened. But then, you know, you're also at higher risk with that for like skin cancer and stuff. So I'm basically supposed to be almost like a vampire now.
So I hope somebody's responsible for this someday for all of our injuries.
Well,
none of them are responsible.
I'm praying that the you know, the lawsuit plays out as it should for, you know, But
I sit on the fence and say, I wouldn't want to take it away from another woman, like getting the breasts, because they make you feel so good when you get them. But when I see people like
this,
you
yeah, it's not worth it.
and my friend Annette, who seems to have permanent damage, and other women who have committed suicide because
Yes.
it tanks your hormones. It's such a hormone disruptor, and women don't realize. And seriously, we have like psychotic, like
Yeah.
episodes, or you just stay like nutsy cuckoo and then you remove them and you're okay.
You know, but I can even see where some of the women that have taken their own life
Yep.
because of, I mean, I've been going through nonstop for 2 years, and it is exhausting, especially when you start losing so much like your finances, and you know, you can't work, you can't hold like a normal job.
Right.
That could totally wear you down to where you give up.
Well, yeah,
And
and you're a single mom with kids too.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's what breaks my heart. So that's why if I can bring any joy and light and the fact of how God has helped me get through this, maybe it will save that one woman going through this from taking her own life,
Yep.
because this stuff is horrible and challenging.
Well,
So
that's why I do these, and I love every woman that comes on and puts themselves out there. Like you guys are so wide open right now when you do these, and I totally appreciate it. But we get a lot of messages. Well, you know, it doesn't end up on the edit room floor, and I think it helps a lot of women more than you know.
Yeah.
So
One voice at a time,
do
right?
great work there, Miss Cindy Leach. You're
Well,
a joy in my life, at least. I'll tell you that.
thank you so much.
I look forward to all of your videos every day. So I'll put your, we'll put links and stuff for your, and if anybody's into marketing or needs a marketer,
Yeah.
there's your girl. Cindy's your girl.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Did you cover everything you wanted to?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, this is
You're gonna go and take a nap
more
now?
like be continued, because you know, next up is neuromuscular. So yeah, it's, you know, and who knows, endocrinology. I don't know.
Well,
I'm so confused at where do I go next?
Plus, they keep putting you on one med after another, and you don't know if those are causing the muscular issues and stuff. And you just
No, we do know those aren't, because the muscles have been sore from the beginning and the weakness. And so far, the meds have not as severe pain, but they've been keeping close contact with, as far as what doesn't have interaction with the other. Like they know every vitamin I'm on as well. Yes, they know all of that. Oh, and to add to this, women, I forgot to put this in the story. So just about a month ago, I had been living, 10 months on almost daily Tylenol, Advil, sometimes more than once a day. I did not realize what it could do. And then a couple of months ago, I had started taking the, the low dose aspirin. And anyways, I possibly have had a GI bleed. I was having blood in my stool for about a month, and it has happened again a little bit. So that's something else that the neurologist told me I need to tell us, neuromuscular. But ladies, it is severe. All this pain. Don't overdo the aspirin. I really did not realize that I basically was damaging myself. But it's hard when you're in that much pain and daily, and even the Tylenol and everything you take is only suffice for a little bit. So that's another challenge that makes it hard. But I really had no idea.
And so can they repair that? What do you?
A lot of times it can repair itself. But if it's something that continues to happen, so any of you ladies that are watching, that you're not aware of, ibuprofen and Advil, that works better than Tylenol, but it destroys your body even quicker. And I honestly did not realize that. Your GI can't repair itself, but just be aware and make sure to tell your doctors. Because I told the neurologist, and he's like, oh, okay, you've got to tell all the doctors from now on that. So
they're also very quick to put women and men, people on steroids and prednisone, and that can really wreak havoc in your body. And they don't really warn you. They just tell you to take them, and they don't warn people of the side effects of them.
And they are careful at not doing it long-term, because I'd even asked my doctors, because the rheumatologist did put me on a week worth of the steroid pack. And I tell you, the first like 3 days of the high dose, I felt amazing.
Oh, good.
I felt like my old self. The pain was very minimal. And when I told the dermatologist and reported that, and she was like, she goes, I was wondering if anyone has put you on steroids yet. And so then fast forward, here we are. Apparently the immunosuppressant therapy is supposed to work kind of the same way, but that's just what steroids do though. They suppress your immune system. So basically it will hide all of your symptoms so that you can try and live more manageable, but then you're going to deal with all the other kinds of side effects as well on top of it. So it's really, you're exchanging one thing for another, but you know, and that can become the hard balance, because I'm sitting here like, well, I would, that makes it a hard balance. It's like, well, if my pain and fatigue go away, but because I'm on immunosuppressant therapy, I can't go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, with COVID and all this, you know, I have to wear a mask. I have to wear a mask when my kids, since they're not vaccinated, get in the car from school when I pick them up, because they've been around kids. My teenage daughter actually just went back to school today. She had COVID last week.
But it's not even COVID. You've got to watch out for everything.
Well, I have to watch out. Yes, everything, a cold, anything. Like I said, even getting a cut. I mean, I'm so paranoid.
Yeah.
And I don't know the full spectrum of that yet. You know, the doctor tells you, Cindy, you're going to have to be a lot more careful. And it's like, well, what I do for a living is I go around people in public places. So, you know, that's going to be another aspect that's really going to, you know, could potentially devastate even what little income I have coming in right now. I'm only going to be able to do things behind a computer.
And you've checked on going on disability?
I'm in the process. I filed, and then I got a paper in the mail of some other form I have to send them. One thing I can say is I do have help from legislative. I know my local senators, state rep, so they are, you know, they can step in and help me should I need. That's who I've been in contact with, just to help guide me as well. So if I get to a point that I don't know what else is needed, technically I do have the LPP is labeled an autoimmune disease. So hopefully that helps in that until we have another diagnosis of something. I don't know, honestly. I'm just having to leave it up to God. I'm having to leave it up to God, but I am in the process. I have filed, and then of course, you know, sometimes they say it can take a little bit, and of course, even then, you're not guaranteed to get a whole lot. Right. So I'm just gonna leave it up to God, trust God, and that, you know, but basically most of my work has to be at home is what it feels like it's going to be getting to, and that's going to be very challenging. So so we'll see. We'll just like I said, literally I gotta say, oh God, there's nothing I can do your thing.
So keep inspiring everybody, including me.
Thank you.
You keep me going. No pressure.
You know, I have people message me like, hey, I miss your TikTok videos. And I'm just like, I don't have the creativity, but also I can't do them to where I move quick. Or my daughter wanted me to make one with her this weekend. And I was like, she showed me the little dance thing. And I was like, honey, I'll have an anxiety attack trying to do that. It would raise my heart rate. I mean, I just can't. Yeah, it's just I haven't had the energy. I really haven't. People don't understand how much energy it takes to think sometimes too. Even behind a computer can literally exhaust me.
Yes.
And it's hard to explain that to people.
Mental fatigue. Yes. And it just wears you out and you have to go take a nap.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I know. I go through it with my Hashis.
Yeah.
Not like you do though, I'm sure. Yours is escalated beyond what mine is, I'm sure.
Well, I have the last like 3-4 days, I haven't had to take a nap. But the 2 weeks prior to that, I was having to take some days my naps 2 hours. I've had naps on the weekend that go to 4 hours. I'll go to church, come home, and I'll sleep 4 hours. And the sad part about that is that I have my kids every other week, and when they're here and I'm having to nap and sleep all the time, that can also wear on you as a mother. And they want to go do stuff, and it's like, baby, I'm sorry, I'm exhausted. I can't. I
Yeah.
can't go do that, or I can't afford to go do that, or which it's not really money stuff for them. It's just, and it's just like, I can't, they want to have friends spend the night. And I'm like, do you mind asking if they can at least drop them off or something? Because it exhausts me to drive, especially at night. I don't like to. And yeah, so it's all a new journey.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through, but you're a tough little bird. You're a tough, inspiring little bird. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Thank you for wanting to do this. And you and I together will just keep spreading hope, awareness, and
if I make it down to Texas this year for my friend's wedding, I will come see you.
please let me know, because my parents live on the way to Austin. So yeah, they're not. Yeah, so I'll come to you if I have to.
No, I'll come to you.
Well, shoot, we can just meet at my parents. They live in the country. It's nice and peaceful.
Well, I look forward to your video tomorrow morning, or your next video, whenever it is.
Well, thank you.
You're very inspiring. Thank you.
Tracy.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you again.